Good morning and welcome to the Saturday special of Dr. Lamba's Awakening Call. We see the state of democracy in most of the countries really often. And today happens to be the eve for India of Republic Day. And tomorrow is 26th is going to be the 70th Republic Day of India. 70 years old or 70 years young. And today I plan to talk on the history of the republics, democracies in a very capsule form, and why this great concept of democracy, which has been there since 5 centuries before Christ, blooming, successful, and today over 160 countries are democratic countries, at least they claim to be democratic countries, and yet the state of affairs is not a happy one. Democracy appears to be a failing concept. It's a much wanted, much lauded, and it's a dream to be self-ruling. As a matter of fact, the concept of a democracy and a republic evolved in contradiction to the monarchical and absolute systems prevalent in the 17th and 18th century, when there was a growing resistance to the wars and revolutions. From 80 Years' War of 1568 to 1648, to the American Revolution of 1765 to 1783, and the French Revolution 1789 to 1799. But then, how mistaken are we? Why do we always think that democracy or republican system of government, which is again democracy directly elected by the people, is something new? But first of all, let's define the characteristics of a democratic form of government. It's a form of the government where the power rests with the people, and it's exercised through representative government and as an elected head of a state. And if we look at that, 6 centuries before Christ and 5 centuries before Christ, India states were successfully being administered as democratic countries, democratic states, and as elected head. Of course, the elected head was called the king, Raja. 6th century before Christ, that was around Buddha's time, the tribe of Lichaviris ruled North Bihar and Lower Nepal. The Mallas centered in the city of Kusingara and Vaji, or Vriji Confederation, based in the city of Vaishali. These were the most powerful republics in India, again, 6th century before Christ, when the rest of the world was still in the dark ages. But the people were so well aware in India at that time that they could administer themselves. Roman Republic also existed 27 BC until it gave way to an empire and the imperial monarchy of unelected Caesar. But the Greeks and the Romans, a democratic elected country. And the throwback, if we see that it was always maladministration which destroyed. Now, as I said, the Indian republicanism and democratic system of independent Jansangha. Jansangha is the people's organization, the people's house, the House of Commons, whatever you want to call it. existed 6 centuries, as I said earlier, before Christ. There was a Greek historian, Diodorus, and he writes about India at the time of Alexander the Great's invasion in 326 BC. And he recorded that the independent and democratic republics existed in India. They seemed, however, to include the monarch, the king, the Raja, and a deliberative assembly that regularly met and discussed and took all major state decisions. The Jansang and the full administrative, legal, financial control. And the king, the Raja, was elected, not a hereditary. It's not that you are son of a king and you'll become king. You have to deserve and to be elected. Today, they're dynasties, but I'll come to that later on. And do you know, Lichevis had a primary governing body of 7,077 heads of important families in the Republic. Shakyas, Kolvis, Mallas opened their deliberations, discussions to everybody. It was open, and the villages had their own assembly under the local chiefs. So, people had full participation in the government, and in the absence of the hereditary kings, with absolute power, these states allowed and showed and showcased India's claim to a standing equal to the best in the world, as a matter of peerless, democratic countries. Now, why is it that people change? One of the lessons of the history that we learn is that one cannot take up an institution like democratic setup for granted. There are enough Hitlers and Stalins waiting to take charge of war, and what that has happened to Germany in the 20th century, Russia, and in all the despotic countries. And that, along with people who participate to become lethargic, unwary, complacent, gives rise to the democracy failing. As a matter of fact, today it's a failing concept. This dream, which was fully realizable in the 6th century before Christ, in India, in Greece, in Roman era, democracy was in full bloom. Why is it that today we swear by democracy and indulge in all the wrong practices which are anti-democratic, so that this dream has become a nightmare? And democracy is a failing concept because of the 5 reasons. Now, today, as I said, if I look at the world around, look at India, protest all over, USA, the president is sought to be impeached, though he would not be, for all the wrong reasons. France, riven by terrorism. England, the mother of the democracies, riven by narrow domestic causes. Germany, poor leadership, giving rise to socialist patterns. Bernier, Joe Biden, Elizabeth Warren, all the new votaries of socialism, in other words, the dictatorship of the proletariat. So why? There are 5 reasons. 5 reasons for the democracy to fail. And all the 5 are evident today. First is absolute power corrupts absolutely. After getting voted to the power, the people at the helm of affairs, deem themselves to be dictators. Because for the next few years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, whatever the term may be, they have full power, absolute power, and they misuse it. And many times these people, once they're in power, convert that power of the limited period into unlimited power, the way China president has done, become the president for life. Earlier, Sukarno in Indonesia did the same thing, became the president for life. Some people even advised Mrs. Gandhi, when she imposed emergency, to become the prime minister for life, and she said, no, under no way. We are democratic, we'll continue to be democratic. But this absolute power, corrupting absolutely, is a major reason for the democracies to fail. But this by itself may not have been much. There are people who are wide awake and they can always rise and make you realize that you are not absolute, you are not infallible. Second is corruption. Since power is for a limited timeline, it breeds corruption. People want to earn as much as they can so that they lose the power in the next election. They have sufficient wherewithal. And nowhere is this more evident than in the former politicians of India, worth millions and millions of rupees. Pakistan, USA, all over, corruption is a way of life. Third reason, nepotism. Everybody wants to promote his or her relations, friends, well-wishers. The spoil system in USA is evident, but it's not an exclusive monopoly of USA. All over the world, this favoritism is playing havoc. I know in India and Pakistan, this is the worst thing that is happening. Marriage is sacrificed for a relationship. And in Canada, we have a different concept. We call it networking. And networking is nothing else than a bit sophisticated form of nepotism. I've seen it happening. Clan-wise, from where you come, what's your background, that decides. Even the old boys' school, if you are school chumps, you are likely to be appointed. So nepotism can be from the various causes, from the region that you belong, from the language, from the culture group, and from the family relationship. But these three would be the big devils, but there are other devils as well. Dynasty trap. It falls into the trap of monarchy. Monarchy, we say, is bad because it's hereditary. And if you look at the state of affairs in most of the countries, you will find that democracy is no exception. In USA, there are 21 families which practically rule. Do you mean to say that people living in Harlem are the people who decide the destiny of USA? In India, the dynasty is very, very strong. At least 7 major parties are family-based. Even the Congress is a family-based party, which is the oldest party, political party in India. After Nehru, it became and degenerated into a family group, family organization. Same is true of Samajwadi Party. Same is true of Trinamool Congress. Same is true of Mayawati's party. Name it and there. And then National Conference, Farooq Abdullah and Omar Abdullah and Sheikh Abdullah, the line continues. PDP, same thing continues. Whether it's Mufti or the daughter of Mufti, they are there. And the same in Pakistan, same in Sri Lanka. So this dynasty is the undoing of the democracy. The entire ruling party has one leader and they become aligned to that. And it becomes a cult figure and the son inherits it. And I've seen the politicians claiming it, why not? As if it's a birthright, since the dad has been a premier or the prime minister. So should they be. So the third is the common man becomes insignificant. That's the worst thing. Democracy basically means upliftment of the common man to the fact that he is a decision maker. And the elected leader is the representative of the common man. But it becomes the other way around. Legally and officially he is the representative. Unofficially, in reality, he is the exploiter. So the insignificance of the common man is the biggest contributor. So these 5 traps are responsible for degrading. So what should be done? First is education. Most important pillar is education and the concept of equality. So you have to breed equality from the birth for all. And country has to be run like a corporation. The person at the helm of affairs is the managing director or CEO or the president. And he has to justify the share value of the government's performance. All the citizens are the shareholders and they have a board of directors and they are subject to removal. So the accountability of a ruling group should be visible and strong. What happens in this system is that there is no accountability. Only at the end of 5 years. There should be regular reporting every 3 months. There should be referendums which are conducted quarterly. And they should be available to the public as a whole. So indirectly, public becomes a participant in taking key decisions. Laws should be enforced well and equal, but they are not. I was reading just yesterday that an MP from Hamilton, in an NDP party, he has been fined twice for driving without license. He has been fined twice $1,000 and he didn't pay it. First time, second time he had to pay it. And he used to park in an unauthorized zone. Jagmeet was sitting with him. I saw that photograph. And then, without license he is driving, but an MP, he should be sent to jail. So, India and Pakistan are not talking about because they are known cases. So, people have to be told that law is applicable to all. And they don't come with a slap on the wrist. No, they should be given much severe punishment than ordinary people would be. It should be the people's ethos. Third is aggressive participation by the people in the central handle on which the democratic umbrella can work. Only then would a truly democratic work for the people, by the people, of the people. And that's the way it should be. So regular referendum, regular education, and then there can be a limit to the terms. There should be no perks. Another thing. No perks to the political office. It should be the love of the office, the love of serving people, that should be the motivating factor. No pensions, no reimbursement of expenses, except for actual traveling, no rents, no staff, nothing. They should be given the minimum wages. That's all. And subject to all the taxes. Given that, maybe we can keep this dream intact. Otherwise, the dream of democracy would remain a nightmare to be shunned. And some smartass is going to come into it, misuse it, and become a dictator. And thereby exerting. Think about it. Thank you.